Chelsea, everyone, I just want to thank you for helping me with this learning curve. As you know, this is pretty new for me to teach pine needle weaving, and so I underestimated the amount of time that was required for these workshops to be done successfully and for this project to be done successfully. So I originally allocated 4 hours, and I should have done 6. And so I'm going to be making a video today, just finishing up the last part of the top ring of the pine medicine basket. This is going to, this video is going to go out to everybody who was in the workshops, and just so you understand like how it looks when it's finished properly, and because neither workshop was I able to finish it properly. So thank you for your patience. Hi. Thank you for helping me teach and learn to be a better teacher. And I really appreciate your presence, whether you were in the class or you did the workshop later on your own time. So we're gonna have a little kitty visitor just join us in the video for a minute here because she wants to be on video. What's this? What's this? Hi. Yes, hello. Hello. I'm making a video. All done? You done being the center of attention? Okay, thank you. All right, thanks for that. So I'm going to switch to the view of the basket. We have used the yellow thread to tie these pieces together. The original tail on the first piece was not long enough. That's my dishwasher in the background, if you can hear that. So we've made it longer so that we can weave these needles together. And yeah, and then we've got 2 needles going right now. So the short tail thread, we have a needle to pin down along the edge here. Let's see if we can get a good, there we go. So just pinning it down along as we go along. And then we've got the long thread on a needle so that we can go through this loop. So I'm just gonna continue working on it and hopefully we can get a really nice finish on this basket. I was mentioning to everyone that when I start getting a lot of knots and can't get it to flow nicely, this is usually a sign that I'm tired, that I need to take a break, that I need to eat something, you know, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. We want to avoid these things while we're weaving because we're weaving our intentions into these baskets as well. So it's important to try and keep a really positive, clean mind while we're working on these. You know, and I like to do a smudge ceremony before I start these baskets when I'm at home. I was able to do a smudge in Anzac when we were there because their community hall welcomes smudge ceremony. So I was really grateful for that. I'm just making sure that the yellow thread does not get tangled in to this top ring. I'm going to do one stitch here around both ends. Hold it all together as nicely as we can. So they're all, whew, that's bright, hey? Not showing really great. They're all got like kind of a break in there, but they're all held together right now. And I'm noticing like this one has come further into the weave. So I'm going to go back, weave over that one. And I really hope that if you get this far and you finish your basket, you will send a picture to my Heather Morigeau Art and Design Facebook group, which is on the business card that your needle was attached to. I'd like to show them your artwork. And if you do any other artwork, please feel free to share that there as well. I really think it's important for us to promote each other as Indigenous artists, right? So I'm inclined to mention that in these workshops, I'm not passing the rights to teach this art form. I do not have the rights to pass these teachings yet. However, these are very, appropriated and there's lots of people who teach this and have no connection to Indigenous art and really aren't concerned with traditional teachings and things like this. I'm trying my very best to honor our traditional ways through these teachings, because I want to make sure that if I'm practicing a traditional art form, I'm doing it in a good way. A way that continues enriching our communities. Oh, I got a good knot going there. I kept trying to untangle it and I kept making it worse. I went to the Moccasin Flats camp yesterday near the McDonald Island Park. I didn't know about Moccasin Flats, so I had to look it up and read about how the Métis people were here, and the thin crude oil companies forced them off of their land, called them squatters, and forced them out of their encampments. And how that affected them intergenerationally by causing poverty and trauma. My dishwasher again in the background. Yeah, so it's not perfect. There's a little bump here. My brother told me a story about porcupines. And I'm not sure if I remember it perfectly, but the porcupines lived together, but they always kept a distance. Because when they got too close to each other, they would poke each other with their quills. But then one winter, it was very cold. Porcupines were in their little hut, their little burrow, and trying to stay warm and survive the cold. And the only way they could do that was to huddle up together. When they huddled up together, they would poke each other and it would hurt, and they were uncomfortable. And they were warm though, and they could survive. And eventually, after a bit of time, they were like, you know, we just can't, this hurts, we don't want to do this. But they had to survive the winter, and so they had to cuddle together to survive the winter. And so some porcupines would go off on their own and say, nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to survive the cold on my own. And those porcupines would go off, and the winter cold would get to them and get cold and die. They needed the warmth of each other, even though it wasn't pleasant, even though sometimes those porcupines would poke each other and it was uncomfortable and it hurt. They still had to huddle together to stay warm and to survive the winter. You know, my brother tells me this story whenever we get into a situation where, you know, I get hurt. And so my instinct when I get hurt by people is to isolate, push people away, just go off on my own, just like, forget these people, get it, I'll do it on my own, I don't want to be hurt anymore. And then he tells me this story and reminds me that it's not possible for us to be isolated and heal and stay warm and be okay. We have to work together as a community, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes. While I'm doing this, I'm making sure to hold the string for the wrap as tight as possible. This yellow string is getting tangled in with everything, so I'm going to have to pull it out soon. And also my teachings of animal stories and the animal lessons that the animals give us, we only share those in the winter time when the animals are in their hibernation, because it's rude to talk about people when they can hear you and when they might overhear you saying things about them. Just pulling out this yellow string, still holding them together. When I was in Anzac, I went to the grocery store. Someone mentioned that sometimes you can buy art from local artists there, and there was some postcards and cards there, so I bought those. I took a Indigenous women's entrepreneur program called the Fireweed Fellowship. And, you know, they talked about like how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur as an Indigenous woman, because most of us are like looking at capitalism and being like, this is the problem, right? So how do we run businesses and companies and stuff like this and still create positive change? One of the things that they talked about, Vicky Lafleur, who does decolonizing money. She talked about how when an Indigenous woman spends money or has money, she always makes sure to build up the people in her community. She spends it in her community and gives money to people who are in need in her community. So it actually becomes more powerful than anyone else who has money, right? If a white settler has money, they don't focus on spending it within the Indigenous community. They keep it in their community. So it causes poverty to ours. Whereas Indigenous people will always make sure to help those in need and share that wealth. You know, it's a traditional teaching to give. The wealthiest people in the community were the ones who gave away the most, not who kept the most, hoarded the most. They were the ones who gave away the most. Sometimes my string gets twisted. I have to untwist it. So this tail is getting in the way. We're going to have some troubles with it here soon. So I'm just going to untie this yellow thread now that the white thread is holding down both ends together. I'm just going to pull this apart. I'm going to try and weave this tail into the rest of it. So I'm just going to trim these ends off. Got that kind of tacked down. Just going to do one more with a knot just to hold it all in place while I finish the last bit of this. Just a simple knot, not a full knot. See, it's all tacked down, not perfectly smooth here. Pulling it as tight as we can, as close together as we can. Making sure to hold that thread down with your thumb on the inside as you're going through. When I get to this point, I often pray, however this basket will be used. Pray that whoever receives this basket always has it full of the medicines they need for healing, community building, sharing. Pray that it gives them a strong sense of their Indigenous identity and a pride of their Indigenous identity, heritage, what nation they're from. And that their children and grandchildren and future ancestors also have that sense of pride in who they are. And are able to heal from the traumas that our people have endured. Heal from those traumas and release the pain that manifests through addictions or physical pain or emotional stress or mental illness. I've lived with all of these. And I know it's because my family denied our heritage, tried to assimilate, tried to forget. My healing comes from remembering and honoring and cherishing who I am. Celebrating who I am. And accepting that even though I'm a person in recovery who lives with mental illness, I'm a good person who does the best I can to help and support my community. And I ask to be able to continue to do that in a good way for the rest of my life. Pray that the person who receives this basket feels that same joy and healing and community connections. Love from themselves, their families, their ancestors. Forgive those who hurt them, forgive the unforgivable harms that have been done to our people. And live in peace and joy with Mother Earth and the communities around them. Even when those porcupine quills poke them. Okay, so this is my last stitch along the edge for the coiling. Now I'm just going to come over here and tack it down. And then to finish the basket, I take the two white threads, or whichever threads you're ending with, based on whatever colors you started with. And I hold those together. And I tie a knot. I take the needle, push it into the side. Basket, pull that tight, as tight as it'll go. And then I pull that needle out, pull the two strings, and it will slide against the wall. So I've got these extra long strings left over. I'm going to take my needle and put both strings through the needle. And then thread them through to the other side. So I've got this one thread of yellow that I'm going to weave into the basket. And I'm just going to loosely put it underneath and then I'm just going to push it on the outside, pull it through on the outside of where the other strings are. This isn't a really pretty string, but what I'm going to do is just grab some extra threads. So I'm just going to cut these about the height of the basket. I have this one long one. And I also have this yellow string on the inside, which is from my tying my threads together. So I'm going to take these threads and just add a decorative touch. Oops, you can't see. Okay, so now I have all these threads coming through. I'm going to take another yellow thread and just tie it around those threads. So there we've got a little tassel of string on the side of the basket. And I'll do that with all the rest of them as well. When you're done with your basket, like completely done, then you are going to take a blow dryer and just kind of heat up the wax in the thread just a little bit. And this is just going to kind of melt the wax onto the stitches and hold it all together really nicely. think I'll give this basket to Nick Vardy for being such an amazing support while I've been visiting this community, these communities. I would say that if you ever want to teach a class of your own, reach out to him. He can probably connect you to the right resources and people and community to take the classes. So as I'm tying this last knot, I will wish for Nick to be blessed with an abundance of medicine, and healing, good health to him and his family. May his career as a photographer be successful. People recognize the skill and talent that he has, his gifts of art medicine that he shares with the world. May he be blessed for all of the ways that he has helped me in my art journey here in Wood Buffalo. Bless his wife and his children as well. All of the same things. There. So when I kind of sticking out all over the place, that's okay. I love it anyway. So that is our final stitch, and this basket is done. Just trim it, blow dry it, put some medicines in it. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here with me to create medicine basket. And I hope that yours come together beautifully and that you share the pictures with me when you are done. Hi, merci. Thank you. And may you be blessed.